Is full-time RV living worth the sacrifice? Well, that's the question we're going to try to answer for you today in this video, based on our experience of doing this for almost 2 years now on the road.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to go through some things today and talk about our experience and what that has meant to us. And we just want to let you know that it hasn't always been sunshine and rainbows throughout this experience.
Yeah, I think people have certain expectations like, oh my gosh, you get to see all these places, which is true and it's awesome. But there's also things that I don't think maybe people consider because we didn't until we started doing it. So
that's right. But it is true. You do get to see a lot of things. You get to go a lot of places. And you get to do all those things. But there's a lot that comes with it too. So we're going to get into all those things as we go throughout the video. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Let's start with our story. Okay, if you don't know us, if you've never been to our channel before, I'm James.
I'm Stephanie.
And we live in our fifth wheel with our daughter Addison, and we travel around the country full time. We've been doing this since December of 2022.
Yeah.
And so that's a little bit about our story. Now we're going to backtrack a little bit and tell you how we even got to this point. How did we even get full time into an RV? Well, this all started really around 5 to 6 to 7 years ago, somewhere in that time frame. You see, we're a military family. I spent 23 years in the Navy, and then I retired from the Navy. But while I was serving in the Navy, we got kind of accustomed to moving around every 3 years or so. And so that was kind of the lifestyle we had already been living, and so we were already used to it. And then towards the end of my career, we started dreaming about where were we going to end up, what were we going to do after my retirement. And so that got us thinking about maybe moving to a different country.
We did.
Yeah, we thought about Costa Rica, places like that. Maybe doing that for a year. We had no real idea what we wanted to do. But one of those ideas was RVing the country. And that one always kind of seemed to just kind of come back around, didn't it?
Yeah, we didn't really get serious about it though, or like seriously start thinking about it until we started watching YouTube videos.
That's right.
And then when we started like religiously watching YouTube videos about other families doing it, that's when we decided, okay, this is definitely what we want to do.
Yeah, I guess that gave us the confidence to realize that we could do it. Because I think there was some hesitation that we could actually do it. And I think that was probably financial, right? That was probably really could we do it financially? And so we'll get into that a little bit later. Maybe not real deep into financials, but I think we'll touch on that a little bit later in the video. But that was one of the struggles for us on maybe keeping us from really getting into that initially, or at least pulling the trigger initially while we were on active duty. And then as it came closer to retirement and we started making the decision on retirement and what we were going to do, and we were watching these videos, we started to really dream big, and we started to really realize that this was doable for us. We could do it. We could make it happen.
And then we started our action plan. Like we said, okay, what are all the things that need to happen in order to make this happen? So we started writing things down, like financially, how are we going to make it work? How are we going to get rid of all the things that come with that? We just started writing down on paper. So that was the first step.
That's right. And we needed a timeline. And so for us, that really started, we really started big time with that action plan about a year out from retirement.
Yes, it was seriously action planning. Like we started researching every single RV. Like we were looking at everything, Class A's, fifth wheels, travel trailers, Class C's, all of them. Like nothing was off the table. We started that broad and then started to narrow things down within that year on what was going to work for us.
Yeah. We several dealerships, took us several months to come to that decision. And ultimately, I think we settled on a fifth wheel because we really realized that going from a house, downsizing into an RV was going to be difficult. And so a fifth wheel seemed like a good medium.
Right.
To where we would have enough space, to where it would feel big enough, but it would still be a lot of downsizing that needed to be done in order to live inside of it.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did.
Yeah. And like there were certain things that matter to us that may not matter to the people. We do have a daughter, so it was very important that she was part of the process. So she came with us to all the dealerships. Right. She was very involved in like what did she want for her space? What did she want that to look like? That's why the fifth wheel also was the best, because they had like separate bedrooms. I guess bunk rooms, they call them, separate bunk rooms with a door that closes. Like all those things were important for our specific situation.
Exactly.
So
if you are not in this lifestyle and you're looking to get into this lifestyle, I do want to let you know that for us, choosing the right RV was one of the most difficult
yes, it was.
decisions of this entire process.
Oh, we looked at so many. My eyes were like starting to cross. Like I was just RV after RV after RV.
Yeah.
Go to a show. That's like we didn't even go to a show.
We didn't go to a show before we bought.
We went to like a bunch of different dealerships. We did do that, but we never went to a show.
We should have.
I
would recommend you do that
yes.
if you're trying to get into full-time RVing. Go to a show. There's lots of experts there, and there's lots of units you're going to get to see on literally 1 or 2 or 3 days of the show.
Yeah.
All in one shot, right? Rather than months. And then you'll get to ask questions.
And you get better deals. You really do. Like the prices at the show are better than if you're like going to all these different dealerships. Yeah. So
that's right. And so that's really our story. We started in December. We bought in October of 2022. We ended up buying an Alliance fifth wheel 36 BRM, which is the bunk model, which has the rear bunk room for our daughter. And yeah, we're happy with it.
I also wanted to talk about in the pre-planning process also, instead, like besides just looking for the RV and deciding, then we did the timeline, like how much time are we giving ourselves to get rid of everything? Remember?
Oh, yes, true.
That was part of the process because we were renting at the time as well. So we had to figure out, okay, what was going to be the last day that we would be renting the house so we could let the landlord know. And the day that we were going to be moving into the RV, where were we going to be staying during that transition period? So that kind of planning also, I think, is important because we did all of that beforehand. It did make it way more smooth and we didn't have any hiccups and way less stressful because we had the RV already. We were still living in the house and we were trying to make this just seamless transition.
Right.
So,
and then what that allowed us to do is transition out of the house we were renting into the RV, and then we decided to live in that RV in an RV park for
6 months because it was in June when
that's right, about 6 months. That's also something we would recommend you do. That worked out great for us because it allowed us to get familiar with our RV
and how to live in it.
Exactly.
So we did do one trip in that period, though. We did
our shakedown trip.
We did that.
It was like an hour and a half drive away, where it's like your nervous trip where you go and you're like, can we do this? And,
like learning how to set everything up and break everything down. And so we did do that. But I did think living in it for 6 months also in the same area, because we also had storage. If you had a question about that, we just did a video on that. like what did we not need, you know? So in that 6 months, I was able to really hone in what I
That's right.
needed, what I didn't need, like what were the necessities, what was just extra.
Exactly. So yes, again, we would recommend doing that sort of thing. It was a good experience because before we hit the road, it helped us figure out pretty much everything on the RV and then what we needed in the RV to help us be successful. So, and then as we mentioned, we got our fifth wheel. But prior to getting the fifth wheel, we bought our truck. We actually bought the truck first.
We did. That is true.
That was a difficult process also because of the timing issue. We bought when there were like no trucks available.
Yeah, it was
There was
still
a chip shortage.
everything was still trying to catch up after COVID.
Right.
So if you were looking for a truck during that time, you probably remember there being like a large waiting list for trucks at the time.
That's
and
Yeah.
yeah. So
But anyway, we bought our truck first, so we ended up picking up a 2016 Ford F350 DRW, which is the dual rear wheel. Okay, that's what we found. That's what we came across. As soon as we found it, we jumped on it. We at that point in time, though, we knew we wanted a fifth wheel.
yeah.
So it was kind of an easy decision for us to go ahead and make that purchase because we said, well, we're gonna have a fifth wheel anyway. Having a dually won't be bad for having a dually.
Right. To handle the extra
payload. So, let's see what's on our list here. We just have some notes down here. This is going to be a little bit of a lengthy video, so hang with us here.
We just wanted to make sure like we check all the boxes because there were a lot of things that, again, like looking back, it's like, okay, we probably could have, like, going to the show. Definitely recommend going to a show first.
I think that covers the story piece. That's the story. And so we've been on the road for almost 2 years now. And we've gotten to see and do and experience so many great things. I mean, what a way to live. Honestly, it has been a change. It has been challenging. It has been difficult at times. It hasn't been all sunshine and rainbows. But man, it's been rewarding. We've gotten to see so many things. Let's get into that brings us to the pros and cons. Let's go over the pros and cons.
Yes.
What do we want to do? Pros first or cons first?
Let's do cons first to get them out of the way. And then, because I do think the pros outweigh the cons. For me, and I know these are first world problems, but the biggest cons for me is I do miss having a dishwasher. And I know they make them, or you can, they have models that you can put in the RV. For me, it's just not worth it. But I do miss the dishwasher, and I do miss my washer and dryer, which I also know that we have the capability of putting it in our rig, but I don't know.
We haven't yet.
Yeah.
We haven't yet.
Yeah. I'm still deciding on, I know there's good ones supposedly, but I don't know. I'm just not there yet, I guess.
Yeah. So that's a con.
But it is a con.
We have to go to the laundromat and we have to wash dishes by hand.
Yeah, first world problems. I know.
Keep going.
Okay. So another one is lack of privacy or me time.
Oh, yes.
So if I am somebody that, like, I'm an extrovert, an introvert, so I require like quality me time to recharge, and it is very difficult to get that when you are living this lifestyle. It just is. So you have to get creative with finding those moments so you can find that time for yourself in order to recharge. So I feel like that's been more difficult than I thought it was going to be. And small space.
Well, yeah. I mean,
it just is what it is.
Absolutely. You're living in a small space. So first of all, from one end of the RV to the other, you can pretty much hear everything. Okay. So there's no secrets in here. You got to keep that in mind. And then not only that, you can pretty much hear what's going on with your neighbors wherever you're parked too. So
unless you're boondocking in the middle of nowhere.
that's right. So yeah, there is a real lack of privacy that you do get most of the time when you're living in a home. And you just kind of have to get over that. It's just one of the cons of living this lifestyle. Okay, cost savings. And the reason this is a con is because it's not really that cheap. It might have been years ago. This might have been a cheap way to live. And don't get us wrong, you can live this lifestyle cheaply if you do it right. However, it's hard. It's really hard to find ways today to full-time RV cheaply. It's gotten way more expensive in recent years. So that's why we put it as a con. The prices of RV parks have gone up over the last 2, 3, 4 years, especially since COVID. And fuel, price of food.
Repairs. I mean, we can speak on this.
Yep.
We have a couple of videos on truck
repairs, RV repairs.
So those all also add up. And I'm talking about repairs that you probably can't do yourself.
Exactly.
So
and these are all things you have to keep in mind when you are a full-time RVer. Not that you don't have maintenance in a house too. It's just that it's a little bit different in an RV. Things break a lot easier
because
so you're using them on a daily basis, but you're also dragging this thing down the road through a hurricane and an earthquake at the same time, and so things are bound to break.
Yeah, and I've learned that the roads in the United States are not very good.
No, they're awesome. The roads are awesome.
I didn't realize how bad they were until we started.
They're terrible. Okay.
Some states are better than others, but still, you guys, for those of you that have been doing it, you know what I mean.
Okay. We're going to go back to small space for a second. I know we just mentioned that in lack of privacy, but what we mean by small space in this one is that you're going to have to learn how to live in a smaller space, which means you can't have as much as you did before, right? So you're going to have to make decisions on things, and you can't bring everything with you, unfortunately. Okay? These things have a weight capacity or a payload capacity that they allow, and unfortunately, you just can't bring everything.
And honestly, I did not have as hard of a time with this as I thought I was going to have. So you may surprise yourself. I thought it was going to be a struggle. I actually ended up adapting, Yeah. You may not struggle with it. It's just something to keep in mind. You can't bring everything. So next on the list. Oh, we talked about it. Expensive to maintain. Absolutely. Something's breaking literally probably on a weekly basis. And that's not even a joke, okay? And I don't care what manufacturer you've got, okay? We have talked to so many people while doing this. It doesn't matter what kind of rig you have. It doesn't matter what manufacturer you've gone with. It doesn't matter how old your rig is. Even people that live in those $500,000 Class A's, even they have had issues, some extensive with, and so again, that's why we're saying I think
if you're thinking about getting into this lifestyle, be prepared. Okay.
YouTube's going to be your best friend.
Yep.
There are repairs that you'll be able to do. We've been able to do some of our own just by watching YouTube. But of course, there's always going to be things that maybe not within your capabilities.
Is that it? That's all for cons?
Yeah. That's why I said the pros outweigh the cons.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sure there's more, but anyway, that's the list we have. All right, let's move over to pros then, which is extensive. We have a long list of pros. This gives us the freedom to move, you guys, and that's kind of what we wanted out of this whole deal, was the freedom to move about the country, go and see and experience and do, and that's what this lifestyle has given us. And more importantly, we love that for our daughter.
Yeah, the things that she's been able to see and do is like, it's amazing. It really is. It's
It's
just
incredible.
amazing. So,
I don't know how many states. Do you remember how many states she has been to, including the military? But just on this trip alone is like something like 12 states or something.
Yeah, I have it written down and I don't remember, but it is a decent amount. She has seen more states in her 13 years than I think it took me like close to 30 to see.
Yeah.
So we'll just put it that way.
And then along with the freedom to move, this lifestyle gives you flexibility, which is key for us because we like flexibility. We don't like being rigid. I don't like being locked in to something, right? Having a house is nice and everything, but what if you don't like living there anymore? It's a whole lot to have to sell your house or rent it out and then move all your stuff and all those things. And trust us, we know. We were in the military for over 20 years. And that's a lot. Okay? If you get tired of a place, it's a lot to move. And in this lifestyle, if you get tired of a place, it takes you an hour and a half to pack up your stuff, hook up, and get out of town.
Be on the way. Yeah.
That's the beauty of it. It gives you flexibility.
So cost savings also was on the pro side because I feel like it's both. Like James was saying that if you do it right, you can save money. And, we fluctuate because some months we just do more than other months.
That's right.
And so if
you can do as little or as much as you want to do in this lifestyle.
Right. So we have been able to save a decent amount and then maybe not save as much as we normally would. But it's just because it's what we, the different experiences that we chose to do. Now, there are some things that we didn't choose, like the truck repairs that end up having to happen. And that's why it was also on the negative side, because those kinds of things that are more costly do end up.
Well, and you can also stay in anything as expensive as $130 a night.
Resort,
or
yeah.
anything as cheap as $15 a night. Or, even free, depending on memberships and stuff that you have.
Yeah, or if you have boondocking capabilities, of course, you can save a ton of money that way. State parks will save you a lot more money. So
it's just a matter of what are you willing to sacrifice, right? And that the title of this video, right, is the sacrifice worth it? Well, for us, I think it is to do a lot of this stuff. So, by the way, if you're military, a lot of the base family campgrounds are, first of all, great, and they're a lot cheaper, $25, $30 a night, which is awesome. So, and safe.
And you get full hookups. So.
Yep. And most of them, yep.
Yeah.
Next on the list, educational opportunities. Kind of touched on it already with what our daughter is able to see and do while we travel. But, man.
You can customize your travels if you want it to based on however you want your children to learn. We don't necessarily do that, but it is an option. Like if that is something that you want to work into your travel plans because you're teaching a certain subject and you want these things covered, it just is like nothing beats going to the site and seeing it firsthand. Like it's my daughter's very visual and she likes to be like involved, so every time we can go to a museum and I can show her like a firsthand account of something, it just helps her retain the information better. And so I think it's such a plus to be able to do it that way.
Yep. If you do want to see a video on homeschooling and how we do it, maybe some tips on that, give us a comment below, and Steph would be more than happy to give you her tips and tricks.
I will gather all the information. I don't have it right now.
Awesome. She's awesome. She did all the research and she's killing it. So, all right, next one.
Meeting new people.
You get to meet so many new people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that one's just easy, right?
Yeah.
You get to meet a whole bunch of new people. This has given us so much more quality time with our family and friends
Mm-hmm.
because we have the ability to go see them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's just amazing. We
And-
didn't get that in the military because, you know, if your family doesn't have the money or the time to come see you, forget about it.
That's true.
You always had to go see them.
Mm-hmm.
And so this allows us to still do that,
Mm-hmm.
but at a way more cost-effective way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so go ahead. You were going to say something?
I totally forgot what I was going to say, so.
Okay, sorry. I had that.
It happens.
Yeah, is this more fulfilling for us? Are we living a more fulfilling life because of all these things?
So, for me personally, I would definitely say yes. There are so many parts of the U.S. that I thought I've seen a lot of the U.S., but there's so many parts that I didn't get to see that were on my bucket list that I've never been to the Midwest. So most of our journeying this time around has been in the Midwest. And, it's like, I can't believe I missed out on that. The Midwest is beautiful in its own way. The people, it's just, I don't know, for me, I feel more fulfilled being able to experience different parts of the U.S. and how people live there. Like, I've never grown up like in a rural area, so seeing like farming communities, it's all new to me. And I don't know, I just think it makes you like a richer person because you get to experience all these different things.
I couldn't agree more. I would absolutely wholeheartedly say we're living a more fulfilling life.
Mm-hmm.
I have no regrets about taking my daughter and uprooting her out of school.
Mm-hmm.
Even though that has been a challenge, and we're going to talk about that next.
Mm-hmm.
And taking her on the road
Mm-hmm.
to experience all these things and see all these things.
Mm-hmm.
No question in my mind, did we make the right choice? I think she's actually home. Come on in. She was just playing at the park. Come on in, kiddo. So hands down, more fulfilling life, no question.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. And it allows us to make a whole lot more memories, which who doesn't want to make more memories?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just unbelievable. So, all right, that brings us to children. This is an important one because a lot of people, I think, are held back by this one because they're like, well, we have children. We should wait until the kids are out of the house before we do it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to, guys.
Now
You don't have to.
Right. These are all decisions that I do think it's important to discuss with your family, depending how old your children are, I would say,
Yeah.
when you're starting this. Our daughter was old enough at the time when we decided to start this that I thought it was important to sit down with her
Yep.
and have her input on it, So that's the number one thing I will say. If your kids are older, and what I mean by older is like they're able to communicate with you, I do think it's important to have the conversation with them and to make sure that they're included in the process. Like, our daughter went with us to all the dealerships to look at all the RVs because her input was valuable, because I wanted to make sure that we were finding a space that didn't just accommodate us, but also was accommodating
That's right.
to her, especially because she was going to be, she's 13 now, but she was going to turn 13. And we all have been teenagers before. And I really think having that space to yourself is important as a teenager.
Yeah.
So
yeah, these are some tips if you have children, okay, and you're thinking about you want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here's how we think you can make it successful.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure they have a space.
Mm-hmm.
All right. In our opinion, that's going to serve you well.
Mm-hmm.
It gives them a space to play and think and be creative, and when they're pissed or mad, they can get away
They
from
have
you
their own
for a little
space.
bit.
Yes.
So yeah, I would definitely say try to give them their own space. Next, get them involved in everything, but most importantly, like Stephanie mentioned or touched on, get them involved in that process of helping you find the right RV. And then after that, the downsizing process.
That is going to be a big one because
it's hard.
It is hard because they have to go from having a room full of toys and whatever else are their favorite things to,
and in some cases, a garage full of toys and bikes and things like that. So
you have to downsize that into, I think I started with like 3 bins, I want to say. It's been a minute because now we've downsized more, but I'm pretty sure I gave her 3 bins and I said, you need to be able to fit everything in these 3 bins. Whatever fits in these 3 bins, this is what you can take.
Yep.
And so she did that. And then as we traveled, we were able to downsize from there. Like, what haven't you touched? And, you know, you do that whole thing, which I'm sure you probably do in the house too, and you just keep going further and further downsizing until you have exactly what they need. So.
And then the next thing, got to get them involved in the planning process of traveling, right? When you're getting ready to go to your next location, or you're trying to figure out where to go to next, make sure you're asking them what their input is too on that one. That's important.
We watch YouTube videos and then we write like a list of things in that area, and then we have her go through the list with us and say, okay, whether it's like a museums, attractions, all the things. And then we say, okay, what are some important things that you want to do? And then so she picks a couple. So then we take those into consideration.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Transitioning out of getting involved. So these are more things of how to live in an RV, really, is you establish a routine for your kids. Okay? You can quickly and easily not get in a routine in this lifestyle because you're seeing and doing so much. It's easy to not have a routine because you're getting up at 6 a.m. to go do this and see this, and then the next day you're sleeping until 10, and then you're staying up till 11 that night because you're having a campfire, and you know, all these different things can throw you off. Our advice is establish a routine if you have children, because that's going to keep them, it's going to serve you well, okay? It's going to serve you well and keep their mindset and their attitude.
Their expectations, they'll know. Like,
check.
Yeah. So.
You already mentioned homeschool in the process. Socializing.
That's a big one. So.
Okay. You guys, we're not experts on this one.
No, we've actually struggled because, shockingly, there have not been that many kids in a lot of the campgrounds that we've been to.
No, and to be quite honest with you, we didn't expect to see like a ton of kids, right, everywhere. Except in summertime. We thought, oh, wow, we might see a lot more kids traveling during the summer. But we didn't. Okay. That was a surprise for us. Okay. And this is our time to ask you guys for help. If you're an RVer out there, you're a full-time RVer, what are your tips? What do you do for your kids to keep them involved with socialization while you're on the road? Are there groups that you get involved in? Just please help us. We're asking for help here because it's been a struggle.
Yeah, it's been a shocking struggle.
Yeah, so please comment down below. That would be awesome. And then we want to mention that transition, you need to be aware that this transition for your children can be quite difficult. When you're downsizing and all those things, and moving from a house to an RV and then traveling all the time. So
there's some pushback. So even though we did all the things, we made sure that, you know, she was involved in everything, because I do think that's important. There's still pushback, and we have a teenager now. So, you know, there's some expected pushback that you get also with teenagers. So last thing I could say is I do think communication is always going to be the best way to handle and navigate the situations, but teenagers don't always like to communicate a whole lot. And just have a lot of grace. I think that's going to help you.
Yeah.
It's going to really test your patience.
Try to have grace. Try to. It's difficult sometimes, okay? Because this lifestyle can be stressful too.
Mm-hmm.
When you're traveling and you're tired and you're hungry and you need a shower, do your best to have grace with your kids.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last thing we wanted to mention with this one is our perspective is coming from having an only child
Mm-hmm.
and a teenager. Okay.
Yes.
We would say that if your children are younger
Mm-hmm.
and not our child's age, you would probably have a little bit easier time. They would be more forgiving.
Yeah. I think of like 3, 4, 5, like it's just
easier.
yeah.
They're just more
everything
fun,
is
right?
just-
They like to go and do and see because they're curious.
Yeah.
But at our daughter's age, not so much. So, okay. What are our plans for the future? Well, after 2 years of doing this, did we make a mistake?
Mm.
Did we, is it worth it? Was it, did we answer the question? Was the sacrifice of living this way worth it? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is. It absolutely is worth it. We're going to continue to do this,
Mm-hmm.
at least for the short-term future.
Mm-hmm.
We are on the lookout to figure out where we want to live.
Mm-hmm. That's another thing that we have been, I guess, taking a deeper look at every state that we've been to. So you can ask him. I get on Zillow and start looking at houses in every state that we go to. Not because I'm ready to settle down, but I'm just trying to get an idea of like, what does every area have? Like, what does it look like there? What does the housing market look like there? We don't know where we're going to end up yet, but I do think that visiting all these states is definitely helping us gather all the information that we're going to need for when that time comes, when we finally decide, okay, we're done now. So,
Yeah. And then we don't have any plans to change RVs at this point in time. Trucks, that could always change. Okay. Trucks are...
well, yeah, obviously if the truck is like
Yeah.
plops down on you, then you're going to have to reconsider. But
For right now, we're happy.
Yeah.
We're happy with what we got, so
Mm-hmm.
we don't have plans on changing that in the future.
Mm-mm.
That is all we have for this video.
Mm-hmm.
And so we love what we have accomplished in the last 2 years. We wouldn't change a thing, to be honest with you. It has been amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But it hasn't all been sunshine and rainbows. And we just wanted to make sure you know that. Because if you want to do what we are doing, just go into this knowing that it's not going to be easy.
But I also think that like nothing worth doing comes easy.
That's right.
There's just always going to be challenges with no matter what you choose to do. But I do think that you just need to make sure you have that expectation that things are going to happen.
Yeah.
And it just is what it is. But it's so worth it because, like I said, the pros definitely outnumbered the cons. So,
Yep. Thank you so much for being with us this week. We do have some other recommendations for you. We have some other videos you should watch right here. These are recommendations for things that you should probably have if you're thinking about getting into this lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Things the dealer's not going to tell you about. Click these videos right here and watch these.
Mm-hmm.
See you later.
Bye.